Do you really think it's just the player's talent that makes a football legend? What if I told you there's something you've probably overlooked your entire life? Something that's been literally under their feet the whole time. What if the boots matter more than you think? If you believe you know which pair of legendary boots truly made the difference between champions and the rest, then prepare for the biggest shock of this video, because what you're about to see might completely change how you look at football history. In this video, you're not just going to see a random list of football boots. Here on this channel, we're diving deep into the 10 most iconic football boots that help transform legendary players into absolute champions. These aren't just any cleats, these are the exact boots worn during World Cup victories, Champions League triumphs, and history-defining moments. From the revolutionary designs that changed the game, to the strategic choices that gave players the edge, this list is packed with fascinating stories and surprising revelations that will keep you watching until the very end. Ready to discover the boots that literally changed football history? Let's go. D-Set. Karim Benzema's Puma Future, 2016 to 2020s. Last one, and this is perfect. Karim Benzema with the Puma Future boots. Benzema is this absolute striker genius, you know? His technique is ridiculous. His positioning is even better. The Puma Future was designed as Puma's answer to modernizing their elite range. It's got this net fit technology, which is basically a dynamic lacing system. But what's really cool about Benzema and the Future is that it represents a player who found success outside of the Nike-Adidas duopoly. Benzema spent years at Real Madrid winning multiple Champions Leagues, multiple La Liga titles, while basically flying the Puma flag in one of the world's biggest clubs. That's actually pretty rare at that level. The boot itself is extremely responsive and technical, which fits Benzema's striker's brain perfectly. His positioning and finishing are probably the best pure striker skills in the game. And the Future boot has been his weapon. The fact that Benzema's been able to maintain elite performance well into his 30s while wearing Puma shows that the boot quality is genuinely world-class. It's not always about the biggest marketing budget, sometimes it's about the right player in the right boot at the right time. 9. Neymar's Nike Phantom GT 2020 onwards. Modern era now, Neymar and the Nike Phantom GT. This boot is kind of the culmination of everything Nike has learned over decades. It's got textured zones for better control, an asymmetrical lacing system, and this whole micro-ridge pattern on the sole, but more importantly, it matches Neymar's style perfectly. Creative, skillful, unpredictable. Neymar's been rocking the Phantom GT and its newer iterations, while playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. PSG, Neymar's basically been the creative force in attack, and that boot has been there with him. The Phantom GT line is actually a really interesting hybrid. It's not pure speed like a Mercurial, not as textured as a Predator, but it's got elements of everything, designed for modern technical players. Neymar represents a generation of footballers who care deeply about the aesthetic and performance balance. These boots look incredible, and they perform. That's the evolution of the sport. Honestly, you can't just be fast anymore, you need to look good doing it. And the Phantom GT delivers on both fronts. 8. Andriy Shevchenko's Puma V1.08. 2006, Shevchenko and the Puma V1.08. Okay, this one's maybe a bit more niche, but stick with me. Sheva was an absolute beast at AC Milan, right? A striker with incredible power and presence. The Puma V1.08 was designed for that kind of power play. It wasn't about the flashiness of a Mercurial, or the sophistication of a Predator. It was about raw effectiveness. Shevchenko wore these during his peak years at Milan, won the Champions League, dominated Serie A. The V1.08 was basically Puma saying, look, we can compete at the highest level too. The thing is, most people probably forgot that Shevchenko even wore Puma because Nike and Adidas are so dominant in the market. But back then, you had your three main companies, and Shevchenko was one of Puma's crown jewels. His success in those boots proved that you didn't need to be with the two biggest brands to win at the highest level. The V1.08 represents that era of mid-2000s football, where competition was actually diverse in the boot world. 7. Thierry Henry's Nike Mercurial, 2004 to 2007. Thierry Henry in Nike Mercurials during his Arsenal days. This is peak Premier League football, honestly. Henry was basically a cheat code at Arsenal, and those Mercurials were built for someone with his specific skill set: rapid acceleration, explosive runs, clinical finishing. The boot itself wasn't trying to be fancy. It was pure functionality, fast, responsive, nothing wasted. Henry scored an insane amount of goals while wearing these, won titles, and became arguably the greatest Premier League striker of all time. The thing about Henry is that he didn't need flashy boots to stand out. His boots just needed to keep up with his feet, and the Mercurial did exactly that. Young strikers now want Mercurials partly because of Henry's legacy. Those specific Nike Mercurials from the mid-2000s represent an era where the Premier League was absolutely dominating European football, and Henry was leading that charge. The boot became almost secondary to his brilliance, which is maybe the greatest compliment you can give a piece of equipment. 6. Messi's Adidas F50 Adizero 2010 World Cup. Alright, Lionel Messi and the Adidas F50 Adizero at the 2010 World Cup. This is iconic, seriously. Messi wore these during Argentina's incredible run to the final. The F50 Adizero was Adidas's answer to ultra-lightweight football boots. It was built for pace and precision, which absolutely suited Messi's left foot and his ability to find impossible angles. The weird thing about Messi is that he's worn Adidas his entire career, which is actually pretty rare for someone at his level. But the brand commitment makes sense, because Messi and Adidas grew together. Those specific Adizeros became legendary because they were worn by probably the greatest player in football history during some of his best tournament performances. Messi's won everything while wearing Adidas, and even though the specific Adizero model has evolved, that original one is basically a museum piece at this point. Sneaker collectors go absolutely mental for those old Messi Adizeros. It represents a specific era where Leo was just entering his absolute prime. 5. Ronaldinho's Nike Mercurial Vapor, 2003 to 2006. Now, if Cristiano Ronaldo was all about speed and precision, Ronaldinho was about joy and flair, and his Nike Mercurial Vapor was just as magical as his playing style. Ronaldinho during that Barcelona era, absolutely impossible to defend. The Mercurial Vapor was lighter than previous iterations, which fitted perfectly with his explosive dribbling. But what made it really special was how Ronaldinho made those boots look. The guy would step on a pitch, and suddenly the Mercurial Vapor wasn't just a shoe anymore, it was part of the spectacle. He won Champions League, multiple Ballon d'Or, and basically made football feel like art. Whenever people talk about the greatest dribblers ever, Ronaldinho's name is always there, and his boots are part of that legacy. The nostalgia around those specific Mercurial Vapor colorways, unmatched. Collectors hunt down original pairs now because they represent a specific era of pure, unapologetic, attacking brilliance. 4. Cristiano Ronaldo's Nike Mercurial, 2008 onwards. Let's talk about a guy who absolutely dominated a boot category. Cristiano Ronaldo and the Nike Mercurial. Ronaldo signed with Nike early on, and the Mercurial became his signature weapon. This boot is all about speed and agility, right? It's lighter, sleeker, and honestly, it matches Ronaldo's whole playing style. The guy is basically a machine, and the Mercurial is built like a machine too. Super streamlined, minimal padding, maximum responsiveness. What's crazy is that Ronaldo has won multiple Champions Leagues, multiple Ballon d'Or, all while representing the Mercurial. The boot itself has evolved every few years, but it's always been about that speed element. Young players see Ronaldo in Mercurials, and they immediately want them. From 2008 to now, that boot has been connected to elite performance. The marketing genius isn't even the question, it's that Ronaldo actually backed it up with consistent excellence wearing those boots. 3. Zinedine Zidane's Adidas Predator, 2000s. Okay, so Zinedine Zidane and the Adidas Predator. This is where boots got high-tech, and people actually got excited about it. The Predator had these textured rubber zones on the sole plate that were specifically designed to give you more control and spin on the ball. It sounds like a small thing, but it was genuinely revolutionary. Zidane wore these throughout the early 2000s, and they became synonymous with midfield mastery. A thing about Zidane is that he made everything look effortless, right? And these boots had this sophisticated vibe that matched his play perfectly. That Predator boot became absolutely massive, in the commercial sense too. Every kid wanted Predators because Zidane wore them. The crazy thing is, the Predator is still around today, still getting updates, still selling out. That's the Zidane effect. 2. Diego Maradona's Puma Copa, 1986 World Cup. Now here's where it gets insane. Maradona in the 1986 World Cup, arguably the greatest individual tournament performance ever. And he did it in Puma Copa boots. The Copa was basically Puma's answer to making something more elegant. You know, slightly different design philosophy than the King. But Maradona in these boots was absolutely unstoppable. The guy single-handedly carried Argentina to the trophy. And those Copa boots became instantly mythical. People still want Puma Copas now because of Maradona. It's wild, because even though technology has evolved massively, players still chase that retro aesthetic. The Copa became this symbol of pure skill and creativity in football. If you wanted to dribble, you wanted Copa boots. 1. Pelé's Puma King, 1966 World Cup. Let's start with the absolute OG. Pelé wearing Puma King at the 1966 World Cup. This is where football boots became a thing. Before this, honestly, nobody really cared what you wore. But Pelé changed the game by being sponsored, and more importantly, his boots actually mattered. The Puma King was this sleek, minimalist design. Nothing fancy, just pure performance. Pelé scored 12 goals in that tournament wearing these. 12. The boot became so legendary that Puma actually brought them back recently, and people lost their minds. It's basically the grandfather of all modern football boots. If you trace the lineage of any premium football boot today, it somehow connects back to the Puma King. So here's the thing about these boots, and why I am actually passionate about this topic. When we look at football history, we tend to focus on the player's genius, right? And that's correct. The player matters way more than the boot. But what's fascinating is how certain boots become part of that legacy. They're not just equipment, they're symbols. Pelé's Puma King represents the birth of modern football sponsorships. Maradona's Copa represents pure, untamed dribbling brilliance. Zidane's Predator represents midfield mastery with a tech twist, and so on. What these 10 boots have in common is that they were worn by players who absolutely dominated the sport. They didn't just wear the boots, they elevated them. Young players wear these exact boots now, trying to channel that same energy, that same championship mentality. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. These boots are literally bridges between legends and the next generation. If you wear the boots Messi wore, or Ronaldinho wore, there's this psychological connection. You're not just putting on a shoe, you're putting on history. So the next time you're buying football boots, think about that. Sure, the technology matters, the comfort matters, but also, think about the lineage you're joining. Think about the players who wore that model and absolutely dominated. Because honestly, that matters too. That's the real magic of iconic football boots. Alright, that's it for this one. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into football culture. And hey, let me know in the comments which of these boots you'd absolutely want to own. Catch you in the next one.